It started right from the beginning of high school, wanting to go to school and be a pilot, F-15 pilot, and then transition to the F-22. The fighter pilot culture, as you would say, is not very conducive or promotes a Christian lifestyle, and a lot of it is believing and relying on yourself with a mentality of you'll never know, maybe you won't come back. So that type of lifestyle, that type of mentality, extremely difficult to be a father, extremely difficult to try and be a husband, actually a good loving husband to my wife. We're both married but living kind of separate lives. So when I had all that responsibilities, I did not want to go ahead and be a godly man. And it's difficult for me to even be here sharing this story. So what ended up happening was I turned away from the Lord. That's the God honest truth. I didn't need Jesus and God anymore because I got it all. I was like, Lord, I got it. Just stay on the side. And through that struggle with me walking further and further away from Jesus, just allowed that opportunity for the enemy to just come in and put a foothold. The further I slid away, now that left doors and footholds and opportunities for now to seek that sinful desires from somebody else. And then that relationship now leads to a physical relationship and then finally an affair. But at that point, I've gone so far away and did not want her to a point where I basically kicked Becky out of the house and was in the process of filing for divorce. So as I was doing that, Jesus never gave up on me. And confusion, because as I did that, she still loved me unconditionally and believed in this marriage.
So when I found out about the affair, I went through all of my emotions, like anger and despair and insecurity, and we fought a lot. Marc was pushing himself further and further away from me, like saying things that you would never expect to hear from your husband, like, I don't think I ever loved you. So I did the only thing I knew what to do, and that was to pray. I prayed. I listened to podcasts, sermons. I read the Bible in that process of just like seeking God and searching for God and searching for answers. I felt that God was giving me insight and wisdom, and he was bringing women into my life who become my prayer warriors. Like, he was building an army for me, because I realized that this wasn't a battle of flesh and blood. This was a spiritual battle. The enemy was going to take my husband away, and I was going to lose my marriage. And so I had these women around me that just like helped me, prayed for me, fasted on my behalf. Just an awesome community God has brought in my life. And through that, I felt like a new resolve, and I understood spiritually what was happening, and I knew also that there was a victory at the end of this, that there was going to be a resurrection, and there was going to be restoration, and there was going to be healing, because Jesus told me there was. And so to answer your question of what got me through it, God's promise got me through it, because it was that point on I took the stance of, this is what God's telling me. This is my faith building moment. No matter what was going on around me, no matter being filed divorce papers, having to hire lawyers, no matter what, I knew that his promise was going to happen. And it did. God just gave me a specific date.
July 15th, today is the day. I can't believe that I'm able to say with such boldness that there will be a movement today, that scales will fall from eyes and hearts will begin to heal. God is so good. It feels like my birthday today.
And on this day, I felt God telling me that there was going to be a breakthrough of some kind on this particular day. I think I even told people, like random people who are not believers, I'm like, it's July 15th, I'm going to get a miracle today. And sure enough, that was the day of like the ukulele festival a couple of years back. Marc had Amelia. It was his day to have her, so he was just like hanging out with her at the festival, and I knew that at some point in that afternoon I would have to go and pick her up. And so I went to the festival to pick up Amelia, and the miracle didn't happen. I left the festival and I was kind of angry, just because I thought something was going to happen. That was the only interaction that we were going to have that day, was during pickup and drop off. And so I was waiting for that miracle and it didn't happen. And then I also remember that day in my disappointment still praising and worshiping God, because if he promised me a miracle, maybe it happened in the spiritual realm. Maybe it was something that I couldn't see. Maybe it was something that was happening internally with Marc that I couldn't really identify. So I just trusted that a breakthrough did happen that day.
On the 15th, what Becky just mentioned, our friend Wendy prayed over me, and I got prayed over many times before. But for some reason, that July 15th, that ukulele festival, it touched something in my heart. And I don't know what crack she found, that my heart was so hardened that it seeped in and it just opened me up. And I remember going back, being in bed at that 10 o'clock, and now just thinking about a life, not what I wanted, but what would a life look like if I surrendered and trusted in the Lord.
Thankfully, it was like 10 o'clock that night on July 15th. I get this random phone call, and it was Marc. And when I answered, he asked me in a still small voice, he just said, what would it look like to stop this divorce process and try to work things out?
The Lord revealed to me that if you trust me and surrender your life to me, I promise you that I have a plan and purpose for you. Not just for you, but for your family, for your wife, and for Amelia. We're still going through it, the healing, as we speak right now. That process of number one, coming out and confessing and coming clean. And there's no running away at this point, because you say, all right, God, I surrender, I trust in you. I do not know how this will look like, but I trust in you.
I feel like it started before I even got that call on July 15th. When I was surrounding myself with women, when people were praying over me, I learned the heart of God. I learned about who He is, and I learned about who He said I am. I learned about forgiveness. I learned about surrender. I learned about what unconditional love is. Unconditional. Loving someone who hurts you, or loving someone who doesn't love you back. I learned about those things, and it was that began my process in healing before Marc even came back. God is creating something new. This is my second marriage. But it's new. We're learning more about each other. We're becoming more intimate than we were in our first 10 years of marriage. And I believe that God wants us to use these scars to share this story with others, to bring others hope that God can restore anything, even the most broken, even the most dead situations. God can bring back to life.